Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control Podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by incoming sophomore on the Louisville women's lacrosse team, Abby Cole. Last season, Abby played in 12 games and got a ground ball and two turnovers. Before college, Abby helped lead New Albany to win the 2022 state championship, recording 4 goals. She was a 2021 state championship runner-up, named New Albany High School #1 team in the Midwest by USA Lacrosse Magazine in 2022. She was on the first team All-State, first team All-Region, first team All-Conference, and she was the 2022 Regional Offensive Player of the Year with 72 goals and 10 assists. And I'm super excited to have her on the podcast today. So, Abby, welcome to the Draw Control Podcast. And how is everything going?
Good, thanks. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I'm very excited to have you on as well. And how is your summer going so far?
It's been pretty good. It's been very relaxed. I've been coaching a lot. I coach for the club team that I came from originally, so it's been good to kind of give back to the girls that are coming in and kind of help them through their recruiting process.
Yeah, is it sort of nice to get a different perspective on the game as a coach? Do you think that sort of helps you out when you're getting ready for the upcoming season?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I kind of see things a lot differently. Kind of if I pinpoint something that a girl's doing, I'm like, I never even really realized if I was the one playing. So it is kind of interesting to kind of see like from a different perspective and not actually having the stick in your hand, but helping other people kind of recognize and what they can do better. So it's been
Yeah,
a really, really good experience.
yeah. And what have you been working on, I guess, this summer to get ready for the fall ball season?
So definitely we have a summer packet. We've been doing that, a lot of running, a lot of lifting. I've been getting into hot yoga too, so that's been a good outlet if I don't want to throw my body into a heavy lift that day. But yeah, definitely a lot of runs, and our packet is definitely in heavy motion right now.
Nice. What's the difference between hot yoga and regular yoga? Is it just, I guess, the room hotter?
Yeah, so it's
Okay,
definitely a lot hotter. You definitely sweat a lot more. But I am when I'm working out, I'm a big sweater, so I like kind of feeling like I sweat a lot more. So it's been good.
that's good to hear. Well, it sounds like you're having a great summer, so hopefully that continues for yourself. But let's transition and talk about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So you're from New Albany, Ohio. Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
Yeah, so I was born in Chicago, and obviously there's not really a whole lot of lacrosse there, but I came to Ohio. We moved here when I was around 4, and I had no idea what lacrosse was. My sister started playing, and then I went and watched one of her games, and I was like, they get to play in a skirt, and it was history from there. So it was definitely like a good other sport. I was a big soccer player. I kind of played every sport in the book, and so I kind of wanted to try something new. And then like growing up in Ohio, it's not a very big hotbed. You're kind of not really exposed to like East Coast lacrosse and girls that have been playing since they were born. So I joined club a few years after I started, and that was definitely like a good way to see other competition. And it honestly made me fall in love with the sport more because I got to see like there's so much else out there, and like the level of competition is so different. Um, and coming back like after my first tournament, I just kind of had a feeling that like I didn't want to be like an underdog, and I didn't want to feel like because I was from Ohio that I couldn't compete with girls from the East Coast. And that made me really kind of put my foot down and step up my game from a very young age. So playing club definitely helped with seeing other competition.
And growing up, were there any players and teams that you like to watch?
Yeah, so growing up in Columbus, obviously you're a very big Ohio State fan. My parents both went to Ohio State. You grew up going to football games. I went to all of their lacrosse games. Um, it was right down the street, so I would just go, and it was really good to see like the players and a collegiate level right in my backyard, basically. So I grew up watching them for years. I got trained by a few of the girls like Morgan Fee, Cyan Dabrowski, a few other girls on the team that would just help me out. And it was really, really fun to kind of have them as my role models and look up to them and kind of, um, I don't know, aspire to be them. So that was definitely Ohio State and them were they were definitely a top team that I would watch.
Now, before college, you played for your high school with New Albany. So, talk about your high school lacrosse days, what you remember from it, and what's your favorite memory from that time period when you look back on it now?
Yeah, so I freshman year for me got cut short because of COVID. And then my sophomore and junior year, we went to states. And then my senior year also got cut short because of an injury. So I only really got 2 years playing high school lacrosse. Although it sucked being injured, it kind of, my senior year, it kind of put a new perspective in and it made me kind of be more present and be in the moment and understand like enjoy even the hard days because you never know like when that can end. So having kind of only 2 years and making those 2 years definitely very memorable, I think was definitely something that I still look back on. And I'm very happy that I got those 2 years. But looking back, like, I mean, it does suck. Like I only got two, but I'm now like every single day I enjoy what I do because I don't know, you never know like what can happen. So yeah.
And how do you think your lacrosse experience with New Albany and also your club lacrosse experience sort of helped prepare you for college lacrosse with Louisville?
Yeah, so growing up with the same girls when I was younger, and even through club, it definitely taught me the importance of chemistry and really knowing who you're playing with and being comfortable with who you're playing with. Because being around girls that you grow up with and you all have the same goal of doing it for your team, having the same goal in mind of, in my case, for high school or for club, like going to states or playing against top teams. We all kind of had the same goal in mind, and it was very like comforting knowing that I had that. And going into college, having girls around me that also worked just as hard, are equally as talented, and all have the same goal of making it to the tournament and being a top contender in the ACC. It's very nice to know that everyone is on the same page, and having that chemistry with your teammates is just so important. And you know that you have 30, 40 girls by your side through hard days, through bad practices, through tough game situations. Like, you know, you have someone next to you that's also going through that. And I think that was definitely a big takeaway from high school and club that I took into college.
I also saw that you were on your high school varsity sailing team. I've never seen that before, so I want to ask what it was like competing in that.
Yeah, so I know everyone was probably pretty confused because sailing in Ohio is not exactly the most out there sport that you would expect from a Midwest state, but I joined sailing my freshman year, and it was kind of unique because I honestly just wanted to try it out. It was something different, and I started and I used it kind of just as like an outlet, and it turned into my team getting really good, and we started qualifying for crazy regattas all over the country, and we ended up going to Chicago like my senior year, and we placed really well. It was frigid, it was 20 degrees, but it was so worth it and it was so much fun. And it was definitely an outlet from lacrosse and it was something completely different, which I personally liked just because now looking back, like I still use a lot of what I learned from sailing in lacrosse, like slowing my mind down and kind of picking up on the small things and being confident in decisions that I didn't expect in the time that I was sailing to translate into lacrosse. But now looking back, like I am very happy that I did that, and it was such a good experience. And my team, they were all super supportive, um, and it also kind of taught me like to be in the moment and to enjoy every moment because I can't exactly uh, pull out a sailboat in my backyard. Like it's kind of hard to go back to that now. And I didn't realize I would miss it as much as I do because I don't have the opportunity to do it anymore. But it was definitely a very, very cool experience.
Is it hard learning how to ride a sailboat, or is it pretty easy once you get used to it?
Yeah, it was definitely really hard at first. I honestly thought I was just sitting on a boat for a few hours watching the sunset, but it was definitely a lot more complicated than that. Once I got the hang of it, it was pretty easy to catch up on like the little things, but picking up on small things like where the wind is and where you should move your boat so you're in wind, stuff like that. I never thought I would have to think about that,
Hmm.
but it was definitely a learning curve for sure. But it was very, very fun.
So I assume when you compete with other schools, it's to see who like wins a race or something like that, or is it like just more skills with the sailboat? I don't know anything about that sport, so I thought I would ask.
Yeah, so it's like a race. A regatta is multiple races in one day. You go out a few times and you just place, and through those placings, it kind of puts you in like first through third, just kind of how any other race would go. But yeah, so went through a lot of regattas in my time. Now I've retired.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe you can get back into it after the
Mhm.
lacrosse days are over for yourself.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's still a long ways away from that happening. So, but let's talk about your recruiting process with Louisville. What was that like for yourself, and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at?
Yeah, so I mean, recruiting in general is such a battle. There's ups and downs, but when I visited Louisville, they really made a hard decision easy for me. Going into recruiting, I wasn't sure exactly like what I wanted, what environment was best fit for me. But when I stepped onto campus and they toured me around the ACC network station that they had there, which is one of a kind. It's insane. It really opened my eyes to kind of like future career paths and what I wanted to do when I got older. And I never really thought about life after lacrosse. And they really prioritized not only lacrosse, but academics and your future and what comes next. And I really had that in the back of my mind. Like I do really need this. And they definitely were very warm and welcoming. My coaches, especially, they put the team first no matter what. And talking to the coaches and talking to the support team, they really do prioritize your future and your academics, your mental health, in such a complex environment. That was what I needed to hear, and it was a done deal for me.
Yeah. Have I been mispronouncing Louisville? Is it I've been saying Louisville. I feel bad about
Yeah,
that.
I went into it saying Louisville, and then I was told to say Louisville.
All right, Louisville. I'll make
Yeah,
sure to remember that for the
I
rest
didn't
of the
expect
interview.
that, but apparently it's a big thing.
Yeah, I don't want to get made fun of after this interview, so I apologize for all the people listening about that. But now, as a freshman, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse?
Yeah, so slowing the game down was definitely a big adjustment for me. I am a very like my mind just goes 1,000 miles per hour when I'm playing, so I don't really think about what comes after I pass the ball or what do I do now. It's all just very quick and in the moment. And once I started playing fall ball and slowing the game down, and kind of seeing the pace and kind of catching up with the pace because I mean, I was playing at an ACC level. It's definitely very, very fast pace, and obviously, like you have to get there very quickly. But my coaches made it very, very easy for me. It was a very good transition from lacrosse in Ohio to an ACC level. But I definitely, through fall ball, especially, kind of got the hang of it. And through the opportunities that I got in season, it was a very, very good transition, I think. It was very, very hard, but anyone can get there.
What's it like playing in the ACC and just the competition you face each game?
Yeah, so the ACC is obviously one of the best conferences in college lacrosse. And when I got picked up there, I was very blessed to have that opportunity to play at such a high level because I was from not a big hotbed, and to go into an ACC school with girls that are equally as talented and worked equally as hard was definitely such a good opportunity. But No doubt every game is definitely a battle, but we do prepare ourselves very well because you're on a team with other girls that are also in the ACC, and practicing with them every single day gives you a lot to work with, and it prepares you really, really well for the games ahead and tough situations. And you know that you have a bunch of girls by your side that are also going through the same thing and also worked equally as hard to be there. And we all enjoy our opportunity to play in the ACC. And every game we take one by one. But it's definitely a battle, but
Mhm.
it's very, very worth it.
And how have you learned to balance academics and lacrosse at such a high level, especially as a student athlete? I'm just curious how you've learned sort of the time management aspect of that part of your life.
Yeah, so it's definitely a full-time job. You kind of start prioritizing your wants and your needs a little differently and managing your time better. First semester was definitely a battle for me, because you don't really know until you experience it yourself, um, at the collegiate level, and on top of a lacrosse, on top of being an athlete, being a full-time student as well. So it's definitely a challenge trying to adjust from high school to college, and then also playing a sport on top of that was it was definitely a challenge for me. But the difference between first semester and second semester for me was massive, especially in my academics, because I learned how to prioritize things and manage my time better, and really kind of use that as like I it was a full-time job. Like I understood it a lot better my second semester. Um, so yeah.
Now, this past season, you guys got a big win over a ranked Clemson team. Just talk about that upset and sort of what it meant for your team moving forward.
Yeah, so I mean, a win is a win, obviously, but when it's against another ACC team, it makes all of the hard, long days so worth it. And everyone in that game played so on top of it, and they did their part. And obviously, there were ups and downs throughout that game, but every quarter we readjusted and we regrouped, and in the end, it paid off. And it was very exciting to watch, um, a team that knew we had it, and then for everything just to be pieced together at the very end, it was just so exciting to watch and be a part of.
Now, your team also got your first ACC playoff win in your career against Virginia Tech. What was your first ACC playoff experience like? And just talk about that win over Virginia Tech.
Yeah, so traveling for playoffs, especially the ACC playoffs, it's definitely no joke. Um, your team on the if you're on the road, you're trying to balance academics, finals on top of everything, being in different hotels every night. But beating Virginia Tech definitely made that trip very, very worth it. Before the game, we all sat down in our locker room and we just closed our eyes and visualized everyone doing their own part and winning in the end and having highlights in our head. And I think that really, really paid off just having that visualization before. Um, and especially for our fifth years and seniors, we had such a great group that led our team to that win. And I think it was all just for our team and for them, and not wanting that to be kind of their last go with the program.
Now, what will you take away from your freshman year, performance-wise, from your team and from your individual performance as well?
Yeah, so freshman year was definitely a learning curve. In the moment, maybe I wished it was a little different, things could be different, but looking back on it now, after everything that's happened, um, there was so much growth that I needed from this year, that looking back on it now, like all of the hard days, all of the things that I wish went my way that didn't, it was all a part of the process of being a collegiate athlete. And I think everyone needs to kind of experience that as their freshman year to really get like a good glimpse of, your growth. And if something doesn't go your way, just know that you're growing, and that next year, year after that, like like I know a lot more now than the start of my freshman year, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I now prioritize my academics, and I have a lot more outside of lacrosse that I wouldn't have had before my freshman year. So I think just kind of taking a step back and realizing like there were ups and downs, but those downs were a learning curve, and I grew from that. And I was very blessed to have the opportunities that I had over the season. And I can only really go up from here. So I'm very excited to see kind of the future years to come and what I can make out of that.
Now, what are your team's goals and expectations for this upcoming season?
Yeah, so we always have goals every single year to obviously get to playoffs, to compete at the ACCs. And we really, really, I feel like accomplished a lot of our goals this year. We always have the same goals every single year. It's just a new team every single year. So kind of having those goals in the back of our mind every single day during practice kind of helps us keep all on the same page and keep us on track and know that every practice is for a purpose, every hard day is for a purpose, for us to go to the same goal.
Now, one thing I noticed about yourself when doing research for this interview was that you're a communications major and your goal is to be a sideline reporter. So, what inspired you to want to do that major? And since I'm a communication major as well, is there anything I can do better as an interviewer?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on this earlier, but when I first toured in Louisville, they kind of took me through like the ACC network station, and that really opened my eyes to kind of what I wanted to do in my future. Um, and I was introduced to such amazing people that work there, and I immediately felt like that was the place for me. And it was kind of like my calling. So having that and finally being able to say like this is what I want to do in my future, um, it was kind of a set in stone thing for me. And college lacrosse is one thing, but making sure that I knew what came after that was also very important for me as well. So having that in the back of my head really, really helped. And now I have an internship through the ACC network station there. So I'm very excited about that as well. And that'll hopefully lead into some more bigger things.
Nice. What's your role sort of in the internship? Like, what do they have you doing?
So it's kind of all over the place. It's more of just kind of seeing what I want to do through the broadcasting, whether that be hopefully in front of a camera at some point, but kind of getting the ins and outs of um, like the broadcasting and replays and fast forwards and commercials. And I got to shadow this past spring for a few spring games, and just getting to see what's behind the camera and how everything works. It was very, very cool to see. And it made me want to pursue that career even more.
So let's now move on to a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you non-lacrosse questions to hopefully get to know you a little bit more off the field. So first one is if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
Ooh, I don't know. This is a tough one.
Do
Mm,
you want me to go first?
yes, if you don't mind going first, that would be great.
I would say Ryan Reynolds. He seems like a cool guy. I know we don't look anything alike, but I can brag to people saying that Ryan Reynolds played me in a movie. So that's sort of I think that would be pretty cool. Either him or like Ryan Gosling, because I think they're good actors as well too.
There are good actors. Maybe like Margot Robbie. I feel like she's such a cool actress. She does so much and she's so talented. I feel like that would be such a cool like role to
Hmm.
play.
Yeah. Well, if they ever make a movie about your life, Ryan Gosling can come back and it'll be sort of a like a reunion for the Barbie movie from
The
last
Barbie
year.
movie,
And he
yes.
could play me in a cameo, so it'll be all good. It'll be all good. Next one is what's the most underrated holiday and what's the most overrated holiday?
I don't really have an overrated holiday. I'm a big holidays person. But underrated, I never really thought about this, but Thanksgiving I would probably say is very underrated. just because I kind of didn't really realize how much fun it was until I got home from college, and that was the first time I saw my friends and family after being away for so long. So I definitely enjoyed my time home.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I would definitely say that was very underrated.
Yeah. For me, Christmas Eve, just the excitement of Christmas on that day just makes that day super underrated, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, Overrated, do you think Halloween's overrated? Because I find it somewhat overrated because after you turn a certain age, I feel like the holiday sort of doesn't hit the same.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Halloween is definitely the spark goes away once you get a little bit older. I still find it fun, but I mean, I would still love to be a kid and go back and pick some candy out of a bowl.
Exactly, exactly. That's sort of what I miss. That's the best part about the holiday, in my
It
opinion.
is the best
So
part.
now, who has the best style on your team off the field?
Mm, so many girls on my team have such amazing styles, but I would have to give that one to my head coach, Scott Teeter, because his game day fits are so unmatched and he has the best bucket hats every single day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Does he have good shoe game too? Because
He does have a very good shoe game,
I know
yes.
coaches are starting to get in the shoe game a little bit, which I like to see.
Yes, Adidas sponsored for sure.
Now, what is the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
So I was in a boutique last week and it was the most interesting boutique I've ever seen. And I picked up, I didn't know what it was, but it was a ring and it was like an acupuncture ring. And you put it on your finger and it is like your finger basically goes numb because it's basically needles. And it was the most unreal experience I've ever felt in my life. And I ended up buying one because I'm such a fidgeter and having that on my finger, it literally cured me.
I'd love to try that out, see what it feels like.
Yeah, it was so funny.
What's a boutique? I feel like I should know that, but I might sound like a dummy for saying that. But I don't, I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
So it's like, well, boutiques are kind of everywhere. They're just kind of like local shops
Okay,
in your area. So,
okay, okay, okay.
mhm.
I think for me, probably most interesting thing I saw this week was just the Stanley Cup final from a couple nights ago. I thought that was super cool seeing the celebration and all that. I feel like it's the best trophy celebration in all sports.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, who has the nicest college lacrosse jerseys?
Mm, trying not to be biased here, but Louisville definitely has some sick style with their jerseys. We have like four or five really, really cool ones. But if
Which
I
one's your
were,
favorite jersey? Is it the black one or is it the all red one?
mm, I'm my favorite color is red. It's
Okay,
always been red.
yeah.
So I would definitely say the red. Or we have Muhammad Ali tribute jerseys.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, so that's definitely a very fun game to wear those in. But outside of Louisville, I would probably say Denver. I
Hmm.
love the mountains on their jerseys. I think that is such a cool touch.
That is pretty cool. I'm a big blue fan, so I always like the Carolina Tar Heel or the John
Hmm.
Hopkins black and blue sort of alternate ones. I think those look really cool.
Yeah, those are cool.
Now, if you could play with another lacrosse player, who would it be?
Um, I would have to say Katie Ramsey. I was in LA when I was in high school and they had a game and I just went to one of their games and she just looked like the most relaxed, confident player I've ever seen. She was like dancing when she was on the draw circle, like taking the draw, and just her energy and her vibe about her made like reminded me like why we play this sport, and her having fun made everyone around her enjoy it too, and she would just had such good energy about her, and I still remember that to this day. So I think if I could play with her, I think she's in pro now,
Yeah.
but if I could play with her, that would be so fun. I think she's like the coolest player.
Hey, you never know. You never know. In a few years that could happen. So, um, I think for me, I don't want to be biased and say Abby Cole, but besides yourself, I would say probably Ryan Smith. I think she's a great player, so I'd love to play
Mm.
with her. Back to some lacrosse questions now. First one will be what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think adding it to the Olympics definitely was a big leap in the right direction. It definitely grows the game a lot more. It puts lacrosse out there. Um, but other than that, like kind of giving like the Midwest and other in other areas like a bigger voice in the lacrosse area because I mean growing up obviously I wasn't from a hotbed, but like East Coast schools and like big hotspots like that definitely get a lot of attention. And lacrosse in the Midwest is definitely on the rise and definitely growing in the South and on the West Coast as well. And I think having like giving the same opportunities and not downplaying girls that come from those areas, I think is a very positive step in the right direction. And I think it'll definitely get there in years to come.
Now, any advice you can give to younger players who are listening to this podcast on what it takes to be a college lacrosse player like yourself?
Yeah, so definitely understand that it's a full-time job. It's not for everyone, but making sure to prioritize grades in high school is very, very, very important. I didn't really have the best GPA in high school, and it definitely kind of cut opportunities for me. And looking back on it now, like if I could do things differently through my grades and academics, I 100% would. Um, Kind of knowing what I know now, I know that I ended up in the right place for me and I made that 100%. But looking back and seeing the opportunities that I kind of ruined for myself through academics um, definitely is a big piece of advice that I would tell younger generations to really, really focus and harp on.
Well, Abby, do you have any shout outs you want to give to your teammates, family members, and friends? And who should we have on the podcast next?
Yeah, so my club director, Joe Byers, she um, definitely helped me a lot through the recruiting process and was my coach through club and definitely taught me a lot of, not even through lacrosse, just life lessons and kind of how to take on life through teachings in the sport. And I really owe a lot to her. My college coaches have definitely made my experience at Louisville very, very memorable. And hopefully you can get Michaela Williams on the podcast next. She goes to the Naval Academy, and I played club with her and grew up with her. And I think her perspective on lacrosse and academics would be a very, very unique perspective. So I think that would be a very, very cool podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Abby, for coming on. I really appreciate that you taking time out of your day and doing this. It means a lot to myself. I think you're a great player. I think you're an even better person. So I just want to let you know that. And I wish you all the best for the upcoming season.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.